The Buccaneers defense is just offensive at this point. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And, of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is Evan Klosky at eKlosky WTSP. We are your credentialed members of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm the editor-in-chief over at the 813.tv. And, of course, Evan is on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. The show is here with you every Monday through Friday, along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share our appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message, no ads or anything like that. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Going to be talking about how on earth this Buccaneers team can find a way to upset the Chiefs, and Evan breaks out the crystal ball a little bit later. But Evan, let's start with the defense. You were very vocal during the game on Twitter about the Buccaneers defensive performance. And yeah, they did tighten things up a little bit in the second half, but we're now talking about a Buccaneers team that is unlike really most any Buccaneers team we've ever seen. They are top 5 in most offensive categories. At the very least, they're top 10. And then they're in the bottom quarter of the league in just about every defensive category. We thought it was going to be really difficult for the Bucs to win without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin. The offense really didn't have as big of a problem as we thought that they would, but it's the defense that's been costing this team games. I mean, what's kind of your take? Is, you know, we're 8 weeks in now. What can be done? What are you saying when it comes to this defense?
I don't know. I mean, it's tough to really give you an answer because it's coming down to the fact that I don't think that Todd Bowles has the personnel to do what he wants to do, and it might stretch his creativity to really find answers. I do expect at some point Todd will be able to figure some things out. Even last year with some holes on the defense, they hit lulls and he was able to tighten the screws up. But I think there's a little bit of players trying to do too much. A good example of that is probably the fourth down Kyle Pitts touchdown. Forget about Merriweather falling down. Very unfortunate. But I don't know if this was part of film study during the week. Todd Bowles called it a coverage bust. But it's very clear that Jordan Whitehead was cheating towards Drake London to try to maybe go pick 6 on him, right? If Kirk makes that throw, Whitehead is sprinting to that ball, and maybe that's a pick 6. But Kirk then is able to get his second read and just find Kyle Pitts wide open. If Jordan Whitehead's doing his normal, what I assume is normal assignment, then it's probably a first down, Drake London, and you just fight on from there. So I think that there's a little bit more just trying to do too much and forgetting the fact that, like, early in the season they would just bleed yards and hold you to a field goal. They've lost any semblance of not breaking. They bend and break. They used to bend and not break and hold you to field goals. That's just not the case anymore. Teams are just marching down and getting touchdowns super easily. The 4-man pressures, not going to get home. You have a huge hole at middle linebacker. Your other cornerback spot is a huge liability. In the first half of that game, Funderburk was picked apart. And he's a rookie. He's young. It's nothing that I really want to say that we should get on him about. It's probably the fact that he should not be in yet. And out of necessity, he's playing. So I don't know what Todd Bowles is supposed to do when he's got a weakness at all three levels of the defense. And then you have some players maybe trying to do too much on top of that. And I don't even know what to say about the second half too, because it just felt like Atlanta either A, kind of stubbed their own toes with penalties, or B, was just committed to kind of running a little bit more than what they were doing, which I didn't necessarily understand why they were doing that, considering they were having so much success through the air, considering everybody does. Bowles is going to have to try really hard week in and week out to scheme up his players for success. We ask that of offensive coordinators all the time. Ask that of Liam Cohen. Get creative. I don't think he had to really reinvent the wheel, to be honest. They just ran the ball. I don't know if that game plan is going to work against the Chiefs as well. But, he mentioned him, Liam, Baker, all week. They're like, hey, we got to be creative with our offense. Well, the defense has to be creative too. And whatever they're doing, not working. And ultimately, it still comes like, if you're going to just give up a ton of points and yards by playing, your soft zone, then, at least be aggressive and blitz a bunch and just see what happens. I know they didn't really want to blitz Kirk, but what we saw didn't work either. So I just have a tough time believing that Kirk Cousins has been mediocre in every game this year, except the two against Tampa Bay. To me, that's a problem. That's a Todd Bowles issue. That's not that's squarely on his shoulders, and he deserves a large majority of the blame right now for this past 4 weeks. Because if Servassier Dennis was the linchpin to your defense, if Jamel Dean and Servassier Dennis were the linchpins to your defense, it's over. Like, let's just move on. Like, seriously, like I'm sick and tired of the miscommunication thing. Like, it's miscommunication. It just, I don't personally get it. You have Antoine, you have Cansey, you have Vea, you have Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, you have Logan Hall, you have Zion McCollum, you have Levante David, you have Jordan Whitehead, you have a bunch of like veterans on this defense. A handful of those names make a lot of money. A handful of those names were first and second round picks, and even with guys like Joe and Logan who don't have a very high ceiling, they should still know what to do, right? Then you have guys like Yaya and Cansey who have been in this defense for a full year. And, I think we can trust them at this point. They didn't have Tyke Smith. I think that hurt them, though I don't think Isian's the worst backup either. So I don't know. Until I see success, I can't anticipate success anymore. I thought against the Falcons, a team they've seen before, with their backs up against a wall, knowing what was fighting for in the division, I really thought that was going to be the best defensive game plan we were going to see from Todd Bowles this season. And the first half could not have been any more putrid. So until further notice, no faith in his defense, and we'll see if they can prove a lot of us wrong. But, for 4 weeks, like I've held out optimism on here as well. Like just, the past couple of weeks I even flipped my pick to go with the Bucs thinking, they can pull it out. I needed to catch up on David anyway. Now I've compounded the problem, but I wish I could provide more optimism for fans out there listening. I don't have much. If the 4-man rush does not get home, there's no hope. That's the way that I view it. If they can get pressure, which Bowles typically is very good at doing, they have a chance. But they're only going to survive by negative plays and turnovers. And another game -3 in turnover differential. That was the difference in the end. Like, win the turnover battle, and you're going to win the games. But That's more of an offensive issue, and the fact that the defense can't get any sniff of a turnover because they're giving 4 yards cushion on every play.
Yeah, well, and unless you're Antoine Winfield Jr., who forces a fumble at the goal line, but the NFL inexplicably doesn't have a goal line camera.
Yeah, and that sucks.
The world wouldn't have imploded if that happened in a Chiefs game.
That sucks, and I think any common sense would have said that was a fumble. Ridiculous that was overturned, considering his toe wasn't even across the goal line yet, and the ball was cocked back behind him. So I don't know how any logical reasoning you can say that wasn't a fumble. Forget about the video evidence. I don't give it. It's part of my French, but it's just like any deductive reasoning knows that that's a fumble. It was clear as day, despite not having the sideline angle. Having said that, the game should not come down to that. Like, we're talking about, we're just talking about something that never should happen in the first place anyway. That should have been a Kyle Pitts touchdown
for the second time in the game.
Yeah, so it's like, we can complain about that, but if we're depending on Antoine Winfield Jr. saving the day at the 1 yard line after a team roasts you for 45 yards or whatever it was, you're gonna be losing a lot more than you're winning. That's for sure. So unfortunate play, but there was so much game left. They could have overcome it, and they decided to turn the ball over a couple more times, and they didn't do squat on the other side.
All right. Well, can the Buccaneers pull off a miracle? That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And you're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. The Buccaneers are 8.5-point underdogs on the road against the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs Monday night, with an over-under of 45.5, and they are now well behind the Atlanta Falcons in the odds to win the NFC South, with the Falcons at -370, and the Bucs are at +420. If you want to get started on the action a little early this week, the Jets are somehow 1.5-point home favorites against the Houston Texans on Thursday, with an over-under of 42.5. Get started this week with your $200 in bonus bets just for placing a $5 bet at FanDuel.com. Again, place your first $5 bet. You're going to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed at FanDuel.com. Whether you're dodging tackles on the field or cheering from your couch, the Joint Chiropractic has your back, literally. As an official chiropractor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're here to make sure you're always in the game, no matter your role. If you're feeling the pain after a long week or just looking to stay active, they offer personalized care to help you bounce back stronger. 90% of elite athletes, including NFL pros, rely on chiropractic care to stay at the top of their game and perform their best. At the Joint, you don't need an appointment. Just walk in and get the care you need same day. No scheduling hassles. Just walk in when it's convenient for you. Here's the real kicker. As a Bucs fan, you are going to get your first visit for just $19. Go to Buccaneers.com, check out the contests and promotion section under the fans tab, and download the offer. A great deal for great fans. Head to thejoint.com to find your nearest Tampa area location. Thank you again for making the Locked On Bucs podcast your first listener view every single day. The new Locked On NFL is here, and it is 2 shows every day. You got the Madman Tyler Rowland kicking your morning off with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then you stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make it your second listen at Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. The Bucs are preparing to take on the undefeated Chiefs in Arrowhead in Kansas City. And the offense was still able to move the ball. They were still able to get points despite the fact that they were missing Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. The run game looked fantastic until it was just completely abandoned. Cade Otton is out there looking like prime gloveless Gronk. But we just talked about how the defense is an absolute mess. Baker Mayfield has turned the ball over 7 times over the last 3 games. You can debate whether or not all of those are his fault or not. It doesn't matter. It's still 7 turnovers. And you're going up against a Chiefs defense that is allowing just 17.6 points per game, while your defense is allowing about 10 more points a game than that. So
Evan, I was going to go with 1 billion, but
I was trying to keep it more in the realm of reality, but it certainly feels like 1 billion. Evan, how do the Bucs pull off an upset? What is the recipe for this game?
You're going to need turnovers.
Yeah.
I don't know how you win this game without winning the turnover battle. So you need some cheapy ways to kind of cut the field in half and flip the script a little bit. So, if you can force a turnover deep in the 30 or 40 and kind of guarantee, let's say you force 2 turnovers on their side of the field, that's 10 points maybe get 1 touchdown, 1 field goal. And that's how you swing a game. So I'm selling out for turnovers all game. That's the only route. I don't see if the Bucs play their best and the Chiefs play their best, the Bucs are not going to win that game. So you need an X factor, and the turnover battle is something that will do it. So you mentioned it. The Chiefs barely give up any points. These are the amount this year: 20, 25, 17, 10, 13, 18, 20. So despite having this tremendous offense for the Buccaneers, I do not expect them to put up 27. I'm expecting more in the realm of 20 to maybe 17, something like that. And as we just talked about, I don't think defense is going to win this game. So, yeah, that's the struggle. The path is, and Todd Bowles kind of said it at the Tuesday press conference, the Monday press conference. He said we're going to have to run the ball and control time of possession, which is kind of a backwards way of saying I want my defense to not be on the field as much. And you're going to go up against one of the better rushing defenses in the league. Having said that, the Bucs were pretty good against Baltimore, which is the best rushing defense in the league. So I think that the Buccaneers offensive line can have some success in Kansas City. I believe they'll be able to maybe do better than some other teams have. Having said that, that Chiefs defense is no joke, and you don't really have wide receivers who can separate that much. One other thing is with Cade Otton, you mentioned it, the Chiefs are actually not very good against the tight end. They're actually one of the worst teams against the tight end, defensively speaking. Bucs are right there with them. But
Kelsey versus Cade game.
Yeah.
Like
and that's the thing. The problem is that the Chiefs have a plentiful amount of tight ends. And so Bowles says if you put in all the small guys, they're just going to run on you. If you put in all the big guys to guard the tight ends, they're just going to crush you and, run routes. That's the mismatch that they provide. But Cade should be able to have a successful day, especially because it seems like Cade has been given some added responsibility in the wake of Chris Godwin getting hurt. Certainly Mike Evans too, but it looks like Cade received some of the Chris Godwin routes. Mm-hmm. He had a choice route in there. He's kind of running the patented outs to the sidelines. So I'm a believer in Cade. I think you got to feed him. You do have to control time of possession, and you have to win the turnover battle. It's variables that you can't really practice. The turnovers one. That's kind of the lame cop-out answer. But yeah, if you ask me if there's any way the Bucs can win this game without winning the turnover battle, I think it's no. I do not see a route. So if that happens, I'll be the first one to come on here and say, boy, I'm an idiot, but I don't see it.
We've been kind of doom and gloom on this podcast so far. So Evan, let's talk about something real quick that does give the Bucs fans some optimism, some hope, some potential excitement. Chris Godwin had his foundation gala event on Monday night, and he was talking to the media before it all started, and he mentioned if everything goes right, if everything goes perfect, and the Bucs are making a deep playoff run, that he could see the field again. My question to you is, number one, what do you think would constitute a deep playoff run? Are we talking about divisional round? And you could see the return of Chris Godwin for a shot to go to the NFC Championship? Or are we talking they would have to win 2 playoff games before Godwin would even have a chance? And then my other question is, with this defense, I mean, what are the odds that they're making the playoffs at all at this point in time?
It's great to hear that from Chris.
It is.
To hear that he's in high spirits. With all due respect, let's approach this topic in the end of December, because it doesn't matter if they don't make the playoffs. And, as far as like the doom and gloom stuff, I want to remind everybody that the Buccaneers have played one team and will play only one team with a losing record in the first half of the season. We knew this entering the year. It was a gauntlet.
Yep.
I did a schedule on May 15th when it came out. I had the Bucs 4-6 at the break, and then I had them finishing 9-8 because the schedule gets easier in the second half. So if they go 4-6 entering the bye week, which at this point I expect, considering their next 2 opponents, I don't think they're dead in the water by any means. The schedule certainly opens up. They can get hot, and we all know that, if you can gain your confidence again, that can do some wonders for you.
All right. Well, the crystal ball is coming out. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. It's the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players leaves in the first half and doesn't return. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL, all lowercase, all one word, and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You do not need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Probably not. Even if you did, maybe it's time for a little bit of a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed basic fundamental truths about the world and our place in it. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, and a personal favorite of mine, Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, and selected short stories. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just sit back and enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. Hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Wrapping things up here on a WTSP edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. And Evan, it's super early to break out this crystal ball. So, of course, you reserve the right to change and amend any and all predictions. You reserve that right every week anyway, but especially on weeks where the game isn't until Monday Night Football. But let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit. Bold prediction, player prediction, score prediction, all those things we'll revisit on the final preview episode on Monday. But let's go ahead and see what your thought process is early in game week here, and start things off with your bold prediction for Monday's game.
My bold prediction is the Buccaneers will run for at least 125 yards against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that I believe in this running game. I think they'll have success on the ground. I don't know what other success they're going to have, but they're really going to test Kansas City and that rushing defense, which I think a lot of teams just don't even attempt to try them because they are kind of good. Same thing with Baltimore. A lot of teams just exit out of that game plan so quickly because they're so good. And the Buccaneers were able to chip away, and actually, and they didn't really have the big one, but they were able to do a lot of positive things. So maybe in this contest, I can see one run getting sprung, and that can raise the yardage. Maybe get like a 35-yard run in there, and ultimately just got to do 90 the rest of the way. But that will be my bold.
Yeah, I mean, they're only allowing 82 rushing yards per game, second in the NFL. But Baltimore, thanks to that Bucs game, their average has gone up. It was 59, now it's up to 69.9, so almost 70 yards a game. So I don't know, maybe, yeah, and it's going to happen at some point, Evan. Bucky is going to break one of these off, where he just makes half of the defense look stupid and they're falling on their faces, and he's so quick in his change of direction. And, we saw him a couple of times against the Falcons turn 2, 3, 4 yard losses into 1 or 2 yard gains. And it's really fun to watch. So hopefully he'll be on full display on Monday night. But who's your predictive player in this one?
Yeah, my player of the game is going to go right back to Cade Otton after a tremendous performance stepping up for his team. I mentioned it. The Kansas City Chiefs are not good against tight ends, and I just do not know how you build an offensive game plan without Cade being a significant portion of that. So I'll say that Cade's my predictive player of the game, maybe 7 receptions, 75 yards and a touchdown, something like that, probably the leading receiver. I would also say of all weeks would probably want to get Payne Durham a little involved as a changeup. Seems like the right time to do that. So bold prediction, Payne Durham, 2 catches in this game.
All right, and your score prediction for this one?
Score prediction, Bucs 50, Chiefs 0.
Yes. Mark it down. Somebody, where's my producer?
Yeah.
Cut that sound bite. Let's get that ready for next week.
Chiefs 27, Buccaneers 17. So
yeah, I think that's about right. But
again, the Chiefs typically give up anywhere between 10 to 20 points. I'll put the Buccaneers kind of on the higher side of that. Like I said, really I see kind of 17-20 from them, 17 or 20. And the Chiefs are just, I know they're not world beaters offensively, but they get it done. Andy Reid's probably going to be able to run circles on Todd Bowles in this defense. Not to mention Patrick Mahomes is going to run literal circles, considering containment has always been an issue this season. Think back to Daniels, you think back to Bo Nix. They actually did a pretty good job with Jalen Hurts, but he was his mind was in scramble mode because he can't handle a blitz. And then, Lamar Jackson, obviously. So I think that Mahomes will have a lot of rushing opportunities. But, I just see the Chiefs just dinking and doinking their way down the field. I mean, it's going to be easy yards. Maybe not the big one that we've seen recently, the Bateman touchdown or the Pitts and Mooney touchdowns. I don't see them being gashed like that. I think this is going to be a slow burn versus the Chiefs. And 27 would be, that's pretty much their top mark of the season. They got 28 against the Niners, but they've done 26, 27, 27, 28. Oh, and another 26. Only twice have they been held to less than 26 points this season. So, and both of them were on the road, I should say. Yeah.
Because of course they were.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Evan, what do you have going on over there at 10 Tampa Bay and 10tampabay.com?
Hey, we got the Blitz. We're gonna do our show again, 8:30 in the morning Sundays on 10 Tampa Bay. If you're not in the Tampa Bay area, you can watch it on our YouTube page, our 10 Tampa Bay YouTube page, or our 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. We have our Locked On Bucs burning question of the week every week, and beyond that, we just coming off of the Stamkos game a couple of days ago now. And also we have stuff on our website at 10tampabay.com about the Trop and developments there. But, mostly right now we're sinking our teeth into the Buccaneers, and you can depend on that every week.
All right. Well, make sure you all are checking out everything going on over on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. Check out everything I'm doing over at the 813.tv. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at eCloskey, WTSP. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. And make sure you are subscribed on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.